everybody, Dave the Pie. I am back with another mod spotlight video. Today we're taking a look at mod grinding utilities. This mod adds a number of blocks you can see here that are used for creating mob grinders. They can do some interesting things that make it kind of fun to design new and innovative ways to kill creatures and get the things that they drop when they die. So we're going to start at the right here with the crafting recipes, starting with these two. These are death mufflers, the Witherboss death muffler and the Ender Dragon death muffler. So both of them are crafted in a similar way. An item related to the boss that you are muffling, surrounded by wool. The Ender Dragon muffler is surrounding a dragon egg with wool, and the Wither boss is surrounding a wither skeleton skull with wool. And I have white wool here, but you can use any wool to create one of these death mufflers. As we step to the left, we have the XP drain. It is made with 3 iron ingots in this sort of L shape with a piece of obsidian up top. And this XP drain, when attached to any of the other tanks, when you right click on it, it makes that lovely squeak sound, it'll pour out liquid XP that you can bathe in. You'll see that in practice just here in a few minutes. Next to that is this singularity tank. It holds 32 buckets. Interesting. And that is made with 4 iron surrounding 5 glass of any color. I have the stained glass here, but it can be any color. Yeah, and it is a tank made out of glass, used to store liquid XP. And how do you get liquid XP? Well, right next to it is the XP Drain Singularity Tank. And that is made with a Singularity Tank, Eyes of Ender, a hopper, and iron bars up top. So we hop on this, drain some of that XP, and you can see right there we're building up some liquid XP. Just a little bit in there. So that's the XP Drain Singularity Tank. It's not the last tank. We'll see one more a little bit further over there. Next to that is the Iron Spikes. Stabby Spikes. They are made with 3 iron swords and a block of iron. Now here's the thing about the Iron Spikes. They will damage mobs, and they can be placed on any surface, any direction. And they will damage mobs that touch it. I haven't tested this. Will it damage? Yes, it will damage me. Oh my goodness. Yes, so they damage anything that touches it, but when the creatures die, they drop their XP, but they don't count as player kills. So some of those items that drop, like I believe with their skeleton skulls, don't drop when they die on iron spikes because it doesn't count as a player kill. Moving on to the absorption hopper. That's this little block right here, and that is made with 3 obsidian over top of a hopper with an Eye of Ender up top. What this does is basically any item dropped, I was in the range, any item that falls within its 7x7 range will just get sucked right into it. So you can see here we've got some absorption hoppers, iron spikes, and something that fell when I was building. And not only does it absorb items that drop, as you can see here we have this bar here, and it also picks up any XP that drops within its range. So that's kind of handy. Also, we have a number of customization tools that we can use to fine-tune the area that we are picking up from. And we'll take a closer look at those here in a minute. Next, we have the Mob Masher, made by 3 diamonds in a tall pyramid, 2 iron swords, iron spikes on either side, redstone block in the middle, and a block of iron at the bottom. And the Mob Masher mashes mobs. And it also, with the Mob Masher, the deaths count as player kills. So any of those items, like, as I mentioned earlier, wither skeleton skulls, I think, will be dropped by that. Another thing about the Mob Masher is it has 6 upgrades that you can apply to it, and we'll go through those here in a minute. Now, there are a couple of blocks in this mod that require a redstone charge to work, and the Mob Masher is one of them. Of course, the other one, or one of the other ones, is the Mob Fan sitting right here. So the Mob Fan is made with 4 stone slabs in the corners, 4 iron ingots in the side, and a block of redstone in the middle. And this will just push mobs in the direction it's facing. Of course, not without a redstone charge, so that was just me walking backwards. And it too has some upgrades that you can apply to it. We'll take a look at those here in a little bit. So let's go on over here to the other side of my shed and let's take a look at these items over here that are separated purely based on space. This is the entity conveyor. It's a conveyor belt. You know what a conveyor belt is. Any item or mob that lands on it will be pushed, and is made with 4 iron ingots on the sides, redstone dust in the middle, and top and bottom slime ball. Thing to remember about the entity conveyor, the direction that you are facing is the opposite direction it will be placed. So as I do this, it just comes towards me. And also, when you're building little paths, you want to make sure that if you need to turn, you lead onto the one that turns, because, oops, if this is going this way, and I go onto it, it'll shoot me off. So that's just a handy little tidbit to know, is to have it go like so. So that's the entity conveyor, crafted like that. Next is the Ender Inhibitor, that is made with iron ingots on the sides, Eye Ender in the middle, and redstone dust on top, and glowstone dust on the bottom. If you right click on it, you can turn it on and off, and basically what this block does is in an 8x8 area, it bans Endermen from teleporting. Yep, 8 blocks away, 8x8 area, I believe. It bans Endermen from teleporting. So that's really handy if you want a mob farm that will kill Endermen, and you don't want them teleporting all over your base. Up next is the tinted glass that is made with either 5 charcoal or 5 coal, making an X, and then filling in the remaining space with any glass you like. Yeah, and what the tinted glass does is, as you can see, it's really dark here underneath this glass, and it's just glass that is blast proof and doesn't let light through. So many of your mob farms, you want to take a look-see in, see how things are doing, but you don't want to let any light in to ruin its efficiency, so you can use this tinted glass, and that keeps your efficiency good and lets you see through, and it's also strong enough to withstand creatures like withers, so anything that's blowing up you don't have to worry about. Next here is the Jumbo Tank. That's the last of those Singularity tanks I was telling you about. And that one is made with 4 of the original Singularity tanks in the sides and 4 iron ingots in the corners. And although these themselves only hold 32, when you combine 4 of them together, you get 1,000. Because that's how math works. And so yeah, you can kind of see in the texture itself, you got the 4 on the sides and the iron on the corners. And yeah, it just is the same thing as that tank over there, but it holds a lot more. Next here we have the XP solidifier. That's use will be explained a little bit more here in a minute, but suffice it to say it can store some XP and does some crafting with it. So to make one, you need a singularity tank on the bottom, 2 entity conveyors on either side, a hopper in the middle, and a piston up top. And this is one of the blocks that can be upgraded with some of the upgrades that we'll take a look at here in just a second. Next thing is the solid XP block that's made with 9 XP jelly babies, whose crafting recipe will be made clear here in a little bit. And the interesting thing about this is it's bouncy. About as bouncy as a slime block. I haven't done any tests, but I'm assuming that's bouncy because it bounces like one. But unlike a slime block, it is not sticky, unfortunately. So if you wanted to do any fancy flying machines that needed like 3 different segments, you can't do solid XP slime blocks and honey blocks because the solid XP doesn't stick. I don't have a piston and I don't feel like grabbing one. But it suffice to say it doesn't stick, so when you push it with a piston, it just pushes it. So it looks like a slime block, bounces like a slime block, but does not stick like a slime block. Next is the entity spawner. This is the last of the blocks that need a redstone charge. The entity spawner is made with blocks of iron on the bottom corners, blocks of XP on the sides, 3 eyes of ender up top, redstone in the middle, piston on the bottom. And this one also has some upgrades that can be done, and it is powered with those XP jelly babies, and then needs a mob spawn egg, which this mod gives you a way to get them in survival, and I will explain that here in just a minute. It also has some customization that you can do to control the overall area that you're going to be spawning in, and we'll explore those here in a minute as well. Alright, on to the items that can be crafted. I don't have them on display because they're in the chest. First one is a mob swab. That is made with a stick with 2 wool on either side, or 1 wool on either side rather, but 2 wool total, and that can be done with any wool. And that gives you a mob swab. And again, its use will be explained as I go through the development phase. Not development, the exploration. No. Anyways, I'll look at them later. Next, we have different kinds of chicken feed, both GM chicken feed cursed and nutritious chicken feed. So the cursed one is made with fluid XP in the corners, and then a spider eye, bone, gunpowder, and rotten flesh, and then any kind of seed in the middle. The nutritious chicken feed, instead of having these, mob drops, has carrots, beetroot, wheat, potatoes, and pumpkin seeds, or rather any kind of seed in the middle. If I switch out the pumpkin and the melon, it'll work just fine. So these seeds can be, or these chicken feeds rather, can be fed to chickens, and they will give you both a rotten egg or a cursed egg, rotten egg or a golden egg. Don't know why I said cursed egg. The rotten egg comes from the cursed chicken feed, and the golden egg comes from the nutritious chicken feed. Well, what does it do? Well, if you take this rotten egg and I right-click on these two blocks here, it will take a 5x5 area and turn it into dreadful dirt. Dreadful dirt. Let's real quick replace these with regular dirt again. If I right-click the golden egg, they will turn instead into delightful dirt. And as you see right there, the delightful dirt spawns any peaceful mob. The rotten egg and the dreadful dirt spawn hostile mobs. They also have a limiter, as you can see. Light level of 10 and above will stop mobs spawning on the dreadful dirt. So if you want that dreadful dirt to spawn a lot of mobs, you gotta have that light level down to 9 or lower. With the delightful dirt, however, 9 or lower means mobs won't spawn, so you want that light level to be 10 or higher, so get your torches and glowstone at the ready. And I've deleted those blocks because they will just consistently spawn, which is great for a mob grinder, terrible for FPS. So we have our last chest here that I won't get to yet because I have one more crafting recipe over here. That is to make an XP mold blank. That you take some 8 golden nuggets, surround a fluid XP bucket, and you get a blank XP mold. If you want this jelly baby mold, you just run over to this crafting table or in your inventory if you're in survival mode, chuck it in there, you get the jelly baby mold, and the jelly baby mold can be thrown in there to get the blank mold. Super easy, super handy, and those will be used in conjunction with the XP solidifier to get those jelly babies used to create the solid XP. So very handy right there, and we'll see that in action here in just a minute. So there is a number of upgrades that you can apply to any a number of the blocks. So the absorption hopper, the XP solidifier, entity spawner, mob masher, and mob fan all have upgrades that can be applied to them. The mob fan has width, height, and distance. The height and width upgrades are made with feathers going horizontally and iron in the corners, and the height feathers going vertically and the iron in the corners, whereas the distance has the feathers in the corner, iron on the sides, and redstone dust in the center. The mob mesher upgrades all correspond to different enchantments that you can get, except for beheading. That's not an enchantment, but it does get the heads of creatures, like the name suggests and the guillotine suggests. So let's look at the crafting recipes. Bane of arthropods, made with spider eyes in the sides, golden nuggets in the corners, and redstone dust in the center. The beheading has the golden nuggets on the corners, and golden helmet top and bottom, iron helmet on the sides, and redstone dust in the center. So as you can see, there's a bit of a trend. You're going to have golden nuggets on the sides and redstone dust in the center on all these upgrades for the mob masher. The fire aspect one has flint and steels on the sides, and again, the golden nuggets and redstone dust. Looting has blue dye for some reason on the sides with the golden nuggets and redstone dust. Sharpness has iron swords with the golden nuggets and redstone dust. And the smite has rotten flesh because smite makes it good at killing zombies, if you weren't sure what smite does. I wasn't there for a good long while playing this game, but yes, it is effective against zombies. Next, we have the entity spawner upgrades. You have a width modifier, a height modifier, and a speed modifier. The width modifier has eggs on the top and bottom, blaze powder on the sides, and a fluid XP bucket in the center. And the height modifier is just that on its side. So you got these eggs on the side, blaze powder top and bottom, and fluid XP in the center. And the speed modifier, which you can see here, we'll talk about that in a second, is made with sugar in the corners, redstone dust top and bottom, blaze powder on the sides, and a fluid XP bucket in the center. And you can see here that the speed upgrade can be used for both the XP solidifier and the entity spawner. So you can either up the speed that entities spawn or up the speed XP is solidified. And we'll see that in action all in just a minute. And the last upgrade we have is for the absorption hopper. That's a radius upgrade. That is crafted using 2 obsidian in the corners, 3 ender pearls on the triangle shape up top, and then a redstone dust in the center, and a hopper at the bottom. And that is used to, increase the area that your absorption hopper absorbs. And if you notice on this one, it says max of 6. A number of these, like the entity spawner width and the mob fan width and height ones, they have a max too. These ones are 3. The distance for the mob fan is 10. 5 on the entity spawners, and then the XP upgrade doesn't say, but I believe it is 5 as well. We'll have to check and see. And then it is a max of 6 for the absorption hopper. So yeah, now that I've gone through all the crafting recipes, I'm going to run to my basement so I can show you how you can kill things. Ooh, we're already hearing some of those things. Alrighty. So this is going to be sort of a practical demonstration of all these blocks in action and some of the creative things that you can do with them, just to make it fun and interesting to get rid of mobs and get the things they drop. So let's step on these entity conveyors to travel all the way over here to my first mob grinder. That has some dreadful dirt at the bottom, spawning all these hostile mobs, and then I have delightful dirt up top, spawning peaceful mobs. If you notice, the delightful dirt has a lot of plants and flowers growing on it. That is just something that it does. Over time, it will grow grass and flowers, which you have to go through and clear away because mobs don't spawn. So that's kind of unfortunate. But yeah, so it spawns peaceful mobs up there, and as you can see, I have these fans back here that are pushing the mobs into this open space with entity conveyors into iron spikes. And now I have the entity conveyors there just so that, well, because it was a large area and I didn't feel like placing all that dirt, and I wanted to show off the entity conveyors. But yeah, the fans only have to push so far, and then the entity conveyors carry them the rest of the way into the iron spikes. So let's look at the interface for the mob fan real fast and see what I'm doing here. So as you can see, I've got a width modifier in here and a distance modifier. This, by the way, is not the most efficient. It's just one that not the most efficient method of placing these fans, just one that I found aesthetically pleasing. So you see the show area shows the area that it works. It's in the name. So what I have is on either side, we've got one extra space that the mob fan is pushing so that it can get this corner right here. And then the distance upgrade is pushing it so that all the mobs fly off the edge of this platform. And then that redstone block right there is keeping that fan off. If I were to get rid of it, I would get rid of that fan. So let's place that back, and then we'll hide that area so it doesn't show off. And the mob fans here behind the tinted glass are doing much the same. And you see I have the tinted glass here so that the light level down here on this dreadful dirt is as dark as it needs to be. And sitting here, I have those ender inhibitors. That's because this mob farm tends to spawn endermen, and endermen like to teleport around, so I have that keeping them out of my base and keeping them in this chamber of death. And as they go through the edge of this mob fan, we have this complicated looking system right here, and I'm gonna turn off hostile mob sounds because my goodness, that is loud. So what is this complicated system right here? Well, I have a storage thing going right here, made by this hopper thing to just keep it all going in, and we're picking up some of that, peaceful mob drops. I'm gonna start that sentence again. We're picking up the drops of some of the peaceful mobs as well as the drops of things like witches, endermen. We got some rotten flesh in there from some zombies and some spider eyes. So yeah, all these drops are getting chucked in there. And if you can see, what's this thing, this plus looking thing? We didn't see that earlier. Well, yes, we did. It's an absorption hopper. As you can see, you can change which direction it drops off in. So down, up, and south are all fluid, and then north is items. So that's why that's different. Shoving items in this hopper, and then fluid in these tanks. Well, what's this tank? This is one of those regular singularity tanks that when you right-click, if you see, it tells you how full it is. Then we got one of those jumbo tanks. Oop, it's getting full. Well, not that full, but it's still getting a lot. And then right here, we have the XP solidifier. I'll go through just a second because we got to look at the XP tap, right? XP tap. Yes, XP tap. All right, cool. So if I right-click on that, just drains right into my inventory. Very nice and handy. So we have the XP solidifier right here, and you notice I have 9 speed upgrades sitting, so that goes very quickly. Is that as many as it goes? Yes, it goes to 9 in the XP solidifier. So good to know if you want to make things fast in the XP solidifier. 9 is the fastest you can do. So you see it has this push button, and then a label right here. It's much like the directions in the absorption hopper. The push button is just what direction it pushes the items, because as you can see, it's not doing anything. Oops. It's not doing anything. But if I put it push to south, right? Nope. West? No. None. I wonder why. Oh, it's just not getting enough. That would explain it. So we're going to go ahead and just get rid of that jumbo tank so that more XP is going into it. Or a smarter decision would just be to do this. And as you can see, as I fill it up, it takes those and it pushes it into the thing. And then if I change that to north? North, yes. So it's pushing them through. Those are going into the absorption hopper and then chucked over here, and it makes the XP jelly babies that are used to make this very bouncy block right here. I'm going to drain some of that XP. So once I drain for a little bit, but yeah, that's basically how that works. So we're going to go ahead and step on this to get to my next location, and this is a little bit of a lab here. As you can see, we got some chickens, thingy over there, chuck over there. So in this chest, we got some of that nutritious feed and that cursed feed. So let's take a bag of nutritious feed and a bag of cursed feed, and we're going to go to these chickens, these lovely, lovely chickens. Hey, chicken, you right there. And there we go. That's how you get a cursed egg. And then you want a golden egg? Do that right there. Get a golden egg. And that's the audio cue it plays. Okay, so we're going to get this mob swab here now that we've checked that out. Say hello to Chuck. We're going to right-click on Chuck. Ooh. Let me see if this works better in survival. There we go. Shift right-click. Didn't need to be in survival. Alright, so now that I have a mob swab of Chuck, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab some seeds, grab a fluid XP bucket, go into the crafting table, grab that, grab that. And this is the actual last crafting recipe as we get GM chicken feed. What's GM chicken feed used for? Well, I'm glad you asked. I go over to one of these chickens, and it blows up, and it gives me a villager spawn egg. Plays that lovely music again. So now I can chuck this in here. And again, we have all these upgrades that I could do. Let's grab the speed upgrades. Ooh, I had some in my inventory. And I'll just chuck these in here. 5 is the max. I don't know where I got 10 from, but 5 is the max on the speed upgrades. So we got a villager egg, but nothing's happening. Well, let's just real quick. So as you can see, this is the area that it will spawn into. And I could, press these buttons to change the overall shape of it. So if I want it moved one more to the west of it, or not west, whatever direction that is, but one more to this way, one more that way, one more that way. Just shows you the area that it will be spawning in. And then if I wanted some of the, if I wanted the area to increase, we could take a look at the width upgrades. And I'll just chuck that in real fast so you can see, but I don't want it doing that. So yeah, that's the width upgrade. But I've got that in there. I've got everything going, and it's still not spawning. Well, that's what you need the XP jelly babies for. Let's run over here, chuck them in. But it's still not spawning. Well, I forgot to grab a lever. If I chuck that lever in there, as you can see, there's a villager here. And since I've got the max speed upgrades in, it just keeps on spawning villagers. And I'll take a jelly baby each time, and it'll keep spawning villagers until I flip that switch, which I'm doing now. I don't want to fill this area with villagers. Alright, Chuck, you got friends, but they are not caged. Moving on, we've got 2 more rooms to enter, and we're going to start with this. Well, not rooms necessarily, but 2 more things to look at. We're going to start with this. What is this? Well, let me hit this lever. This is a spawner that I have making wither skeletons fall. As you see these wither skeletons are getting killed, the absorption hopper's picking up all their stuff and chucking it all in here. But the wither skeletons aren't dropping the one thing we really want from wither skeletons, and that's their skulls. So we're going to go through here, and you can see these are the upgrades that we got. All the upgrades you can use, but we got beheading and looting in spades. So let's grab that looting and beheading, and we're going to go ahead and go to each and every one of these and just chuck the max in. Why are we chucking the max in? Well, because we want to be as efficient as possible. So we're going to throw the max of the beheading and looting. So we're going to get a lot more stuff. And, as you can see, we're already getting loads and loads of wither skeleton skulls and too many swords. So let's go ahead and take these skulls. And we'll flip that off as we, there we go. That's enough out of you. We're going to go into our last room here. Just going to grab some preparations real fast. And also going to just switch myself. Let me just switch myself to survival mode. Just chuck all these on. For no reason other than, yeah. So as you can see, we've got the glass here, the tinted glass. We've got this set up. So we're going to go ahead and chuck that there, and chuck that there. And let me real quick run through and grab this. Boom, no damage. And I don't really like that bar up there, so I'm going to right-click this. Gets rid of that bar. Let me break these so I can get in. Cool. Alright, let's kill him. Ah. Well, that's not as effective as I thought it was going to be. But, yeah. Let's kill him. Oh, dear. Let's, go ahead and do that. So he doesn't break my house. Spent a lot of time on this house and don't want to see it destroyed. Well, as I go to fix this problem, that's pretty much the end of the mob grinding utilities mod. I hope you enjoyed, and oh dear. Well, all my stuff's gone. Well, I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you next time.